When the muscle is stimulated by two successive stimuli, the magnitude of contraction of the second stimulus is greater than the first. This occurs because the first stimulus becomes beneficial for the second stimulus. The calcium ions released from the terminal cisterns during muscle contractions are pumped back during the relaxation period. Therefore, when the second stimulus falls in the relaxation period or immediately after the relaxation period of the first one, some amount of calcium is still left in the sarcoplasm due to incomplete relaxation, and this increases the calcium concentration for the second stimulus as it adds to the calcium that has been left in the sarcoplasm from the first stimulus. Therefore, height of contraction increases with the second stimulus. The increase in temperature and decrease in the viscosity of the muscle by the first contraction also contributes to the beneficial effect. This is the graph showing genesis of tetanus. Now, what is tetanus? Tetanus refers to a state of sustained tonic contraction of the muscle without any relaxation due to rapidly repeated stimulation. It does not occur if the muscle is stimulated at lower frequency. If the muscle is stimulated at higher frequency, tetanus occurs. So in the graph you can see the four different graphs. First graph is TREPPI, second graph is clonus, third graph is incomplete tetanus, and the fourth graph is complete tetanus. TREPPI is also known as staircase phenomenon. It is like progressive increase in the force of contraction for first few contraction when the muscle is stimulated repeatedly at a frequency of 5 per second. This occurs due to accumulation of calcium ion in the sarcoplasm due to application of repeated stimulus. As I have already explained you the beneficial effect. So increase in the strength of contraction of the muscle. Here it is because of beneficial effect. Now second and third graph is second graph is clonus. Clonus is a partial tetanus. It is observed in experimental condition. Now fourth graph is tetanus. Tetanus is a state of sustained contraction. The muscle remains in the state of tonic contraction without relaxation. This occurs when the nerve muscle preparation is stimulated with higher frequency, more than 35 stimuli per second. So rapid and repeated stimulation leads the stimuli to fall during the contraction phase so that the contractile processes are repeatedly activated. The muscle does not get time to relax. Therefore, with each stimulation, muscle contracts without relaxation. So, individual responses fuse to give the state of sustained contraction of the muscle. This is the graph showing genesis of fatigue. Fatigue is defined as decrease in performance due to continuous and prolonged activity. It can occur in whole organism or in isolated nerve muscle preparations. The mechanism of fatigue is different in intact organism and isolated preparations. Fatigue is reversible phenomenon and there is no functional or structural damage to the tissue. In humans, the fatigue first occurs in the central nervous system, whereas in isolated preparation here in the nerve muscle, the first site of fatigue is neuromuscular junction. In isolated preparation in nerve muscle or amphibian muscle, the fatigue can occur at three sites. First is muscle second is neuromuscular junction, and third is nerve. But as you know, the nerve is theoretically not fatigable, unfatigable. Therefore, the possible sites may be muscle or neuromuscular junction. But the muscle contraction, here you can see in the graph, the muscle contraction recorded after the fatigue has occurred, the muscle contraction is recorded by directly stimulating the muscle following the genesis of fatigue, which indicates the muscle is also not fatigue. Therefore, it can be like we can infer that the site of fatigue is neuromuscular junction. The cause of fatigue is because of depletion of acetylcholine, exhaustion of acetylcholine at the neuromuscular junction. If the preparation is allowed to rest for some time and you pour the fresh ringer nutritious solution on the muscle, then the muscle contracts in response to stimulation of nerve. This again proves that the site of fatigue was neuromuscular junction following the period of recovery. As recovery allows resynthesis of neurotransmitter at the nerve endings. The ringer solution supplies nutrition and it facilitates recovery. So again the contraction is possible. If the muscle is directly stimulated continuously, it can also be fatigue because of exhaustion of glycogen stored. But in this condition, there will be no recovery as all the utilized glycogen is depleted. An early sign of fatigue is prolongation of relaxation period. Here you see that in the successive, here the number shows the number of contraction. First, here the one number, it shows the first muscle twitch, then second and third. The height of contraction, here it is increased because of beneficial effect. Here is the 10th contraction, 20th contraction. So as the number of contraction increases, here you can see the relaxation period is also increased. Early sign of fatigue is prolongation of relaxation period. When the muscle is fatigued, the relaxation becomes incomplete. You can see the incomplete relaxation at here at the 17th muscle twitch or the contraction. When the muscle is fatigued, the relaxation becomes incomplete and it remains in the state of partial contraction. State of partial contraction. This is called as contraction remainder. This is called as contraction remainder. So this is the graph showing the effect of load on muscle contraction. When the load is applied to the muscle before the muscle starts contracting, the condition is known as free-loaded or preloaded. When the load is applied to the muscle after the muscle starts contracting, the condition is known as after loaded. The work done by the muscle is affected by after loading and free loading. In free loaded condition, the work efficiency of the muscle increases, and in after loaded condition, the work efficiency of the muscle decreases. This graph shows the effect of load on muscle contraction. The number in the first graph depicted with tracing indicates the weight in grams applied for that contraction. So this first recording shows the effect of after load on the moving drum. The graph B shows the recording of the effect of after load on the stationary drum, and the next figure, it shows the free loaded contraction on the stationary drum. So you observe in the graph in free loaded and after loaded conditions. Note on the moving drum, in after loaded condition, the height of contraction decreases and latent period increases as the weight increases. On the other hand, in free loaded condition, the height of contraction increases with increase in the weights. In after loading condition, the latent period increases because of increase in the inertia of the instrument. The amplitude of contraction decreases with increase in the load as the muscle has to lift more load. The contraction period also decreases as the duration of active state decreases. In the afterloaded condition, the work done is less than the free-loaded condition as the muscle contracts against the load. In free-loaded condition, the height of contraction increases with increase in weights but within the physiological limit. After a limit, the amplitude of contraction decreases. The load acts on the muscle before it begins to contract. Therefore, it stretches the muscle prior to contraction. The contraction time does not change because duration of active state does not change. The height of contraction increases because stretching of the muscle in free loaded condition increases the initial length of the muscle fiber. So the change in initial length of the muscle fiber changes the force of contraction according to Frank-Starling's law. This law states that the force of contraction of the muscle is directly proportional to the initial length of the muscle fiber within the physiological limit. So, the physiological basis of this law is increasing the length of the muscle prior to contraction. The interaction between actin and myosin filament increases but up to physiological extent. So this afterloading and freeloading also occurs in human body. Lifting heavy weight is an example of afterloading and throwing a stone is an example of freeloading. The best example of afterloading and freeloading is seen in pump activity of the heart. Pumping activity of the heart. Freeloading, which is also called as preloading, is a venous return to the heart, and after loading to the heart is a peripheral resistance. When the preloading means venous return increases, the diastolic volume, end diastolic volume increases, and this increase in the end diastolic volume increases the cardiac output according to Frank-Starling's law. The cardiac output decreases when the venous return decreases. When after load, that is peripheral resistance, increases, the cardiac output decreases because heart has to pump blood against increased load, that is resistance.